here to inspire. With our words, we'll set your dreams on fire. Adonis finest brew.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andre Goolsby, once again here at BMW of South Atlanta with just an extraordinary gentleman, another one of my Adonis finest, the best of Adonis finest. Adonis finest represents some of the most extraordinary people that exist today on the planet that are my friends. I've got Mr. Kim Harrington that's here, and we go back just a few years, but I tell you, when I first met Kim Harrington, it was just an interesting story. You remember we were at Loans.
So you gonna bring that up?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I won't name the company. But we were at a company, and it's funny because what you just talked about was it's not many of us doing what we do, which was a lender, mortgage lenders. So we were in this, before Kim came, we were in this plush office. So this plush office down on Ashford Dunwoody, right across from Perimeter Mall.
Right.
And it was maybe 3 or 4 of us in a building of like 30. I was one of the top salespeople, top loan officers there. And Kim, I walk into our bathroom and Kim was in there. You were in the bathroom. And I remember you had on a black shirt, a black polo shirt, and black slacks, black shoes, and it wasn't that many of us. And so, of course, you stand out. Hey, there's a guy in the bathroom that looks like me, right? So you turned around, and I remember I was wearing something like a tangerine shirt, tangerine pants, and shoes, and you were like, "Hey, man, I like the outfit," and I almost said, "Great, let's switch heads." And I was like, I've been working on not saying the first thing that comes to my mind, right? So, I see just this guy, he just works out all the time. So I was like, I heard that we had a manager in. So I had a boss, which was Joe. Then Joe had a boss, which was Trey. And you were Trey's boss. That's what I came to find out. So the funny part about it was, I was like, Trey came in and says, "We have our new area manager here. It's Mr. Kim Harrington. Hey, how you doing?" I was like, thank God for not saying the first thing on our minds, right? And then you started off with a magic trick. And we're going to touch on that in a little bit. But you started off with a magic trick. I guess that's to garner everyone's attention. But and ever since then, I don't know what it is. I was trying to like run from you, and I think a couple of days or the next day we had lunch down at the Fountain. Right. We had it was catered lunch and everything like that. There was a seat beside me. There's 40 people in the courtyard. You came, sat beside me. I was, the boss's boss is sitting beside me. It was like, you're like, "Hey, Andre, so where you from?" And I told you, and you said, "Where do you live?" And that whole time, I don't know if you knew this, I was living in Stockbridge at the time. You knew that. Living in Stockbridge, but that journey was killing my cars. It's over an hour to drive, and it was really, really something. And he was like, Stockbridge. I got an office right around the corner there. And I says, "Well, how can I?" You said, "How can I get in it?" You said, "Nobody's in there." I said, "How can I get in there?" You said, "I'll bring you a key tomorrow. Just find out from your boss, is it okay?" And you gave me the key to that office. And that cut down my travel time. It was like, somewhere there is a God, right? That was just, but you and I, even after that, you and I have maintained our friendship.
Of course.
And I'm a firm believer that the true currency in life is relationships. It is relationships. And you and I have talked about that. And we've been, apart from working together in the mortgage industry, and there's some really exciting things going on with Movement Mortgage, which I want to talk about too.
Of course.
And after we got separated there, you were doing trainings with me. I mean, you were just down with me. And I just very rarely do you find someone, especially of your stature, that's going to just be, "I'm with you. I got you." And I'm like, wow. And then I met your beautiful wife, and then I met your family, and then I found out more about you, and then I was like, wow, I must be really something special. This guy's like really befriending me. Now that's really awesome. But it goes back to the type of person that you are now, always giving, always. I want to talk about your charitable contributions. I want to talk about your the way you just volunteer and you perform, and Kim, and operate on a high level. I mean, you're market leader with Movement Mortgage, one of the largest mortgage companies in the United States. And I love the fact of what they were doing is putting up charter schools, and you're a part of that. So anyway, I'm just throwing all this stuff out here. I'm so excited to have you here. But Kim, how did it all start off? You come from very humble.
Hold on, man. Before we go, because you just said a lot.
I did.
And so for me, man, it's really about just being authentic, being yourself. And when you talk to people, you can tell pretty soon, especially you've been in sales for a long time, you can tell within the first 30 seconds if someone's being real or they're just kind of faking it and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
As soon as I met you in that bathroom, I said, that's a real brother right there. And I've never in my entire life been a title guy. I mean, for me, it's about what you can show people that you can do. And what I mean by that is, if my goal is to help other people reach their full potential in their personal life, in their professional life. I work for them. I work for everybody that, for lack of a better term, that rolls up to me. Because if I was just thinking about myself, we'd never get anything done. So, and people like you, man, are rare.
Thank you.
You, first of all, I mean, how many brothers you, or anybody that goes around with an ascot on? I mean, that is a signature. I talk about this stuff all the time. That's your signature. If anybody mentions ascot, oh, Andre, you talking about Andre? Either Andre or my man Roland Martin, right?
Right.
That's it. I mean, in the world. But and so for me, I see. I don't know if you remember this, but I referred my niece to you.
Yes.
For a mortgage.
Yes.
So I just wouldn't do that with anybody.
Right.
And we probably met maybe a week before that.
Right.
And so I'm like, Andre, right away. So it's really about connection. And if you're genuine and authentic, man, it's going to flow by itself, man. Now go ahead with your question.
but thank you for that. You and people see you, and you're such a polarizing and to some intimidating.
Oh, of course.
You know, but that didn't come by osmosis. You know, people look at you today, and I've heard people, you know, it's like, wow, look at Kim, look at it, you know, he's such in shape, and he's like, how do I do that? And I remember your answer. You know where I'm going with this. Your answer was nothing simple. It was like, oh, I just work out every day for the past 28 years.
Yeah.
For the past 28 years, people, okay, that's it. You know, but that's not an easy thing to do. You and I, we talk about books that we've read, David Goggins. You know, we talk about some of our heroes that we have, and people. To me, you're that. You know, when I wake up in the morning, sometimes I'm like, but then again, I know. Let me just at least do some push-ups, you know, because I know Kim is going through a full hour before he goes to work. A full hour before you go to work. So, you know, so many things I want to ask you, but before we go to where we grew up and the way we grew up, let's talk about health and wellness. Let's talk about fitness. That's your baby right there.
So, I grew up in New York City. And in New York City, you're limited on the activities that you can do, especially if you live in the inner city. I'm not talking about the suburbs. I'm talking about the inner city. For example, there's no pools. So you've seen probably movies where people have a hubcap on a fire hydrant.
Yeah.
And back then, there was no technology, no cell phones, no pagers, no computers. So you were active as a kid. Always. You were trying to play stickball, you know, round up, you know, tag, whatever it is, but you were always active. And then as time progressed, you get into baseball, you're active. And then you have friends that are active. And so the fitness part of it was probably already ingrained in me, and I didn't even know what it was called then. And I wasn't doing push-ups, anything like that, but just being active, a kid, active, outside, not playing video games. But then at the young age of 17, I went to the Marine Corps. And so that's where it really started, the discipline of taking care of your body.
Before we go into the mortgage industry, tell us about your upbringing.
Yeah. So, like you said, people see the current version of somebody, but they don't know the you that made you you.
Yes.
And so my biological mother was a heroin addict. And my father, that's on my birth certificate, he's not my biological father, but he's on my birth certificate, was a career criminal. So by the time I was born, he actually spent half his life incarcerated already before I was even born. And so 15 months old, the New York City Police Department, along with the Department of Social Services, they came in and removed me and my 3 siblings at the time. There's 8 of us, 8 different fathers. I mean, this is New York City, 1961, 62, and no crack, all that came later, but heroin was a big deal back then, and it was cheap. So that's why people went that route to take care of their needs. I mean, and so I grew up in 5 foster homes and 3 group homes. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and to really get them to understand is that there's a great deal of built-in abandonment when you live like that and you go from home to home to home. You don't feel love or feel secure, even if the family's nice, because next thing you know, you're moving somewhere else. And it's almost like you have to reinvent yourself every time you move somewhere else. And then think about all the schools I had to change to. I went to 4 different high schools. And so there's Mother's Day, Father's Day, absolutely no meaning to me. I mean, now that I have kids, yes. But growing up, when someone said it's Mother's Day or Father's Day, it was almost hurtful because I didn't have someone to look at in that capacity. And so, and I always say this, only when it's dark enough can you see the stars. And there have been many stars in my life. And all these mentors and role models came from my grade school days. 2nd grade teacher, martial arts instructor, 4th grade teacher, gym teacher. I remember vividly lessons that they taught me. I could not tell you one teacher from high school or middle school.
Wow.
Not one.
Wow.
But I can talk about Miss Hershey, Mr. Levinsky, Mr. Dees, and Mr. Pollock. And so, and I try to use that as an example when I'm talking to like kids or school, because I don't know if the teachers truly understand the impact that they have on the kids. They're with them the majority of the day. They have so much influence on them, and they can do it in a positive way, or they can do it in a negative way.
Yeah.
And if they're not feeling a certain way about their position, or themselves as a person, or the way the administration is teaching them, that's going to trickle down to the kids, and that's really not fair to them.
Right.
And so, and I know that's a roundabout answer, but
No,
it's
not at
just. First of all, I believe that we all have a purpose on this planet, and we have a very limited, contrary to popular belief, we have a limited amount of time on this planet to do anything. It's so small. The life expectancy for a man in the United States is 74 years old. For a female, it's 79 years old. So if those statistics are correct, I got another 11 years to live. And so what am I going to do with that time? Am I going to be selfish? Am I going to think about myself? Or am I going to try to make an impact on somebody else's life?
I get it now. I get it. Which further explains your passion, your drive about volunteering. I heard you give a speech one day about volunteering, and you were like, can you spend or can you give an hour of your time to help make someone else better?
Yes.
We all can, people, I don't have time for this. You do have time for it. You just got to have the desire for it. Let's talk about your charitable work.
So I am because of those experiences growing up, I have this overwhelming urge to give back, especially when it comes to youth, teenagers, and things like that. I know that if they have the right mentorship, let's just say there's 100 kids in a room, and 95 of them don't care that I'm even talking, but 5 do. That's a win, because I can change those 5 lives, hopefully, and then they're going to change other people's lives, and so on. It's a trickle effect. So there's 720 hours in a month, so there's 160 hours 160 hours in a week. You multiply that by 4, you add another 48 hours. That's 720 hours a month. Everybody has 2 hours of that month to give back to somebody else without having any expectation of getting anything in return. And the reason why I say it like that is because every single person breathing on this planet has a unique gift. They have unique something, competencies that they can share with somebody else that will find value in that. And I put it like that because a lot of people don't find value in themselves, so they think, no, who wants to listen to me? It's not about listening to you. It's about you've been on the journey and you're 40 years old or you're 30 years old, whatever it is, and someone is going through the same thing you went through 15, 20 years earlier, and you can say, hey, listen, you can do what you want to do, but let me just share this with you, give you some guidance. If you take this, you'll probably save yourself some time. How many people in your lives that you know that are single moms? Maybe people that have been abused, and they've got kids, and they had to go and seek help with a shelter somewhere. Think about the power of those strong women, and when they got back on their feet, and then they look and they see this lady with 2 kids, and they're going into the shelter, and that lady that's going in there, and it probably took all the power in the world to get away from that abuser because it's a trap. I need him. He pays my bills. He does this. He supports our family. He keeps us fed. He got the roof over our head. So there's almost not an escape for them. But if they can talk to somebody that's already gone down that road and say, honey, I got you. Don't worry about it. I know exactly how you feel. We got a plan for you. And it's going to make their path better. So everybody has unique gifts. All they got to do is marry that up with the right organization and then just volunteer and give your time. And so I volunteer with an organization here in Atlanta called Connections Homes. Mm-hmm. And that organization helps kids age out of foster care gracefully. And so what they do is they match them up with mentoring families.
Ooh.
And so because they don't have anybody.
Right.
I just told you I didn't have anybody.
Right.
So those families are with them for the rest of their lives. And to really understand what it means to age out is this. You just leave your house and you turn the lights off and the lights go out. As soon as someone turns 18 years old and they're in the system, they're turning the lights on and saying, go get them, Tiger. No resources, nobody to call and ask questions. And so what happens is if you're a female, 82% of the time you're going to end up pregnant the first year or a victim of human trafficking.
Wow.
And if they do have a baby, that baby ends up in the system 50% of the time. If you're a male, over 90% of the time, you're either going to be habitually homeless or incarcerated. And that's due to survival crimes, shelter and food. And they're just trying to survive. And so they end up doing things for that reason. I understand. You got to do what you got to do. I always say that. But if they had that mentoring family, if they had the guidance and they say, I got you, don't worry about it. When you go off to college and there's a break and everybody's going home and you're like, I got nowhere to go. That's what happens. They just stay there. But at least they have people they can talk to and reach out to. And that's near and dear to my heart right there because I know that we can make an impact and change those statistics.
Right.
The other organization that I've been volunteering with for 39 years.
Wow.
Is Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Yep.
And so that is a 100% preventable crime. Because, so the average female in the United States weighs 166 pounds. The average male weighs 169 pounds. A standard drink is a 12-ounce can of beer, a 5-ounce glass of wine, and 1.5 ounces of 80-proof liquor. Mm-hmm. If someone drinks one of those drinks in an hour's time, their blood alcohol level will be at 0.02. The legal limit here in Georgia is 0.08. So that's 4 standard drinks in their system while they're driving. However, how it goes in your body varies depending on how much you have to drink. The more you have to drink, the higher your blood alcohol level. And people are pounding them. You see them. They're out drinking all the time, getting drunk. But what never changes, and the most important thing, is how it leaves your body. You only lose 1 of those drinks per hour. Ooh. So if you're a 0.16, an hour is going to go by, you're only going to be a 0.14. You're not going to be great to drive. So if people really understood that chemistry part of it, they could make better choices. But the fact of the matter is, 39 years, I speak at 2 to 3 victims impact panels per month. The victims impact panels are designed for people that have been arrested, adjudicated, and so that meeting is part of their consequences. That they sit there and they listen to victims of driving under the influence. Now, I'm not a victim, but I do have unique experience with drunk drivers. I was a highway patrolman for 16 years in California. And so I personally arrested over 2,400 people for that. And I also investigated hundreds of alcohol or drug-related collisions that result in somebody's death or severe bodily injury. So that is a very unique competency. And I know that if I share some information or stories in a certain way, that I will have some advocates when they leave there. But that's rare. So just so you know, because what happens with those meetings is people want to punish them. They want to go, hey, you should have known better. Mm-hmm. This is what you could have done. Well, what are you accomplishing? They walk in angry, they're going to leave angry. But what if they walk in angry and then they leave, they're like, I can do better.
With hope.
With hope. I can make better choices. And this is a fact. And just think about ourselves. If you're an adult, you drink alcohol, and you drive a car, can you honestly say you have never in your entire life had too much to drink before driving the car? The answer is probably no. I know I have. I got so many stories about that. So the only difference between the people sitting in that room and the people that may be judging them is they got caught and you didn't. Mm-hmm. And so there's just so many. The hard part is the victims. Yes, the deaths, right? But what about the people that don't pass away? Or what about people with traumatic brain injuries or lose a limb? They can't work. They have to have caregivers. It impacts the entire community. And it's really about what kind of choices am I going to make before I get in the car and drive? You can go have fun. You can get drunk. Call an Uber. But you got to plan ahead. Because you can't plan after you start drinking. There's a lot of babies on this planet because people start drinking and they met someone late at night. I wasn't planning on getting pregnant. Well, guess what? You were drunk. So better decisions can be made ahead of time. And so I'm super passionate about that. I actually chair the Georgia-Alabama Advisory Council for MAD here. Mm-hmm. Great volunteers, great people. MAD does so many wonderful things that people don't even hear about. There's advocacy in the legislature. They have victims advocates that go to court with the families. Some of these, I don't want to be long-winded, but some of these cases, if something happened today, and let's say my loved one got killed by a drunk driver, that case may not go to court for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
So in the meantime, I'm dealing with all this stuff, and that person's more likely not out of jail, and they're doing whatever going on with their life. And so it's a lot of residual trauma that goes on with these families that they cannot address until those cases are adjudicated. And it's very, very hard. There's a place here called the Shepherd Center in Atlanta.
I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah. And so they deal with people with brain injury, traumatic brain injuries and things like that.
I've been there.
Yes.
To visit clients, yeah.
Yeah, and so could you imagine if everyone had an opportunity to walk through there as part of getting their driver's license? And I know when people are young, I was young, that you don't hear things when someone says it, but if you see it, it maybe becomes sticky. Mm-hmm. I volunteer at the jail, teach life skill classes. I don't do it as much here. There's some challenges in Georgia, but when I was in DC, once a month I'd be in there, just life skill classes. Some of the guys have never had a job in their life that had a paycheck. And they've only been paid cash. They have a tattoo on the neck of a gun that says killer. And you're like, what kind of job am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, you can get a credit card. Go get a secured credit card from the bank. Start there. You can show that you're going to make on-time payments. They will give you a credit card. Wow. But if they don't have that information and knowledge, they'll just go through the rest of their life thinking they can't do something. And we're all, that's why I talked about the way you present yourself is truly important. And so I volunteer at Juvenile Hall. And one of the things I say to the kids that is, first of all, they have to own what they did. Because a lot of times they want to blame other people and just say, no, I wasn't doing anything. I said, well, you weren't doing anything that time or ever because you got caught this time.
Right.
And so, and I talk about just taking ownership, say, I messed up. I shoplifted. I got caught with some weed. I got caught with this. And then say, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because if it wasn't for this, I would still be doing what I was doing.
Right.
But since that time, this is what I've done to improve my life. Man, if somebody came to me and said, you have anything else to add? Yep. I got arrested when I was whatever for it. I'd say, oh, but this is what I've done since then. I'm like, I love people with bruises.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if someone doesn't have bruises in their life, I mean, come on now.
Yeah, why you even want to be around them?
If people go through adversity breeds character, character breeds faith, and in the end, faith will not disappoint you.
Ooh,
right?
Right.
So, and that's that. There's a new one. It's called Ignite Hope. There's an event this month. I just got connected with them, but they help families from birth all the way through teenage years for at-risk youth. They provide resources and counseling, everything that you can imagine. And so this is the first time I'm going to be volunteering with them, so I want to see what it's all about. But everybody has time. Even all the stuff I just mentioned, maybe 10 hours a month. It's not really time consuming, but it's more than I'm going to feed the homeless on Thanksgiving. And that's great. I'm not going to take anything away from people doing that, but that's an hour to your time all year. You have all these gifts that you can share with other people. Find somewhere to do it. It's going to make you a complete person. It will make you a complete person. You'll get more out of it than them, I promise, right? Go ahead.
No,
I was just rambling.
No, not at all. Not at all. All that was great. And see, that's what I wanted to happen in this conversation with you. Those nuggets, those pearls of wisdom that you can just throw out there, because I know how passionate you are. This is real.
Oh yeah.
And I even know why you're passionate about it. Like, it's just like what you mentioned. Yeah. But there was a point in time when you and I talked about once, because I remember on some of our training, you're so sound technology wise, with the Google calendars and stuff like that. I'm boy. Anyway, hold up, I'm not even gonna talk about myself. But you speak so well, you write so well, and I was like, Kim, where did you learn to do this? Like, go ahead.
Yeah, well, self-taught.
See?
Yeah. So necessity is the mother of invention.
I've heard that.
And so
when I say I read, I don't read. I listen. So it's all about audiobooks. And I try to take. I don't try to take everything from the book, but I try to take stuff from the book that I can do, that I can implement right now. There's a book that I just listened to. It's called The Gap in the Gain. And I can't remember the author right now, but The Gap in the Gain is a fantastic book. And what it really talks about, and when you're a type A personality like you are, where you're always go, what can I do else? I want to add something to it. I want to do a fashion show. There's always something going on, right? So there's always a challenge of falling short of where you think you should have ended
not
it.
necessarily
Right?
reaching the ultimate goal that you set out for yourself, but where did you start? And then where are you now? Because you just accomplished a whole lot there, but if you live in the gap, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be satisfied. You got to look at the gain. When I didn't hit let's say the goal for the year is 100, whatever it is, and I made it to 80. The previous year I did 60. I'm disappointed because I didn't do 100. Well, I got 20 more than last year. Let me celebrate what I did accomplish.
That part.
And so it's almost like, people in medical school or high school, and they're grinding, man, trying to take these tests and get these graded grades and be honor roll, and they get a B. And then most kids in the school are getting C's and D's, and they're upset. The world's over because they got a B plus. But everyone has to just slow down and say, hey, where'd I start? Where am I now? I have growth ahead of me. Let's keep it going.
There was a gap in between you look back to your 13, 14-year-old self.
Mm-hmm.
And then 17, you went for the military, Marines.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about that time period there.
Well, so and I'm being completely honest, I always try to be as honest as possible. And part of my honesty is say, if I don't want to answer, I'm not going to answer it, but I'm answering this. So if I'm being completely honest, I went to 4 different high schools, and if I was 6 months out of those 4 years, 6 months in school, I'd be shocked. I never went to school. I was a habitual truant. I'd be riding between subway cars in New York City, going to Times Square, and Times Square is a lot different now than it was back then. And so, once again, no guidance. No one checked my report card. No one went to a parent-teacher conference. So I was basically a latchkey kid. You're out there on your own. And so it was just a weird thing. And so when I was 7, I lived in the Williamsburg area of Brooklyn. And I would always walk past this one storefront. It had this big plate glass window with a gold dragon on there. And I would stick my head in there, martial arts studio. And I'm like, and then one day I get this tap on my shoulder. I turn around, it's Mr. D's. It's like 6'7", old dude from the South. And he said, "You want to come inside?" I said, "I can't." He said, "You mind if I ask your parents?" I said, "I don't have any." So you think about the trauma of a 7-year-old saying, "I don't have any parents." He said, "Well, you must live with somebody." Gave him a telephone number. And within a week or two, he says, "Hey, come on inside, young man. It's okay." And then for the next 10 years, he made sure I was back there participating in those activities, regardless of where I lived. He had me. And he said, "Hey, I got you." And then so when I was 17, ironic enough, I'm walking down Jamaica Avenue in Queens, and I'm passing this glass door with a gold seal on it. And this one said Armed Forces of the United States of America. And something drew me to that door. And whatever drew me to that door was the best thing that ever happened in my entire life. But so I ended up going up there. The Marine Corps recruiter saw me after I stopped by all the other offices. And he said, "Come on in, young man, it's okay." Same exact words from Mr. D's 10 years earlier.
Wow.
And that, man, I don't care whatever happens for the rest of my life, that one decision, me going to the Marine Corps, was the best decision I ever made in my life. It just changed my world completely. And I learned so much from being a Marine. How to be a man, how to stand tall, be proud, honor, integrity, loyalty, commitment to excellence, being part of a team and not thinking about myself, because we all have one mission, and that mission, we're going to do it together. It doesn't matter what your race, creed, color, religious preference, the mission. All the other stuff is ancillary. And so when it was time to go, everybody went. And then after it was over, if somebody had disagreements, they were still there. But while we're doing it, everybody was there for their Marines.
So even as you're telling that story, wasn't that so difficult? Because you just talked about where did you start and where did you end? It's like everybody else started here.
Yes.
And it's like you started, because that seems to be the antipodes of, you're talking about teamwork. You're talking about, and that you didn't see any of that.
No.
Yeah. So that was probably trying for you.
Oh, it was, it's almost like someone had a leash on me and they were just pulling me around the entire time I was in boot camp. And what I mean by that is that I didn't have the mental capacity.
Sure.
And this is another thing I say. I feel like my chronological age, I'm about 10 years behind. So when I was 20, not necessarily 20, but when I was 20, I was probably 15. But when I was 30, I was probably still 20. And when I was 40, I was doing things that I should have known when I was 30.
Right.
Because of the guidance, the gap.
Right.
And so I was a complete follower when I was in boot camp anyway. And I did whatever they said do. I didn't put any thought into it. I didn't say, well, maybe this is a better way to do it. I'm going to try to pick. Nope. They said, do it this way. I did it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I did it so much that they held up this bag as an example when we first got there. They said, I want you to write it just like this. And it had a name Santarelli on there. And so on my bag, I wrote Santarelli instead of my name. So, but they said, write it just like this. I said, okay, I don't know who Santarelli is, but, and then they saw mine, the entire 12 weeks of boot camp. My bag had an X through Santarelli, and I had my name Harrington on there. Everybody else had their own name. I had an X on Santarelli. I said, come on, man. I mean, I could have got a new bag, right? But
Great story.
But I love the Marine Corps, man. The Marine Corps, that is by far the best thing that ever happened to me. By far. Even now, just the way I think about my life and the way I look at my family and my friends, all that's from the Marine Corps, all of it.
I love the way I had the wonderful opportunity to be with your dear wife.
Yes.
Jen is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I just admire about you so much is the way you love her.
Yeah, man.
You know, you remember when we first met, every single day you go to work, doing all this training, and 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, got to go see Jen.
Yeah.
You know, me being, who I am, single, is like, wow, that's amazing. I was so impressed. I was like, I don't want to see anybody every day. I know I got to work with people I got to see.
Of
but,
course.
That was such a foreign concept, and is to me.
But that's reciprocal, though. That's a relationship.
Yes.
It's I don't believe in it's 50-50 anything, because if I'm struggling and I'm only putting in 20%, she got to put in 80%. You got to lift me up. If she's struggling and she's putting in 30, I got to put in 70. And so, and it's not all coffee and donuts. Relationships are super hard.
Sure.
People write all these books and stuff, then you find out they're divorced. Like, what the hell? You wrote a book on relationships.
But she didn't read it.
She didn't read it. And so it's if we're being real and if we're being realists, we can say, hey, we all have deficiencies. I'm not going to be everything to you. You're not going to be everything to me. But if my relationship is 90% good, and I'm just going to say it, I'm not going to focus on the mice nuts. Something so small you can't see them.
Sure.
So why focus on the stuff? And people do it all the time. They want to focus on the stuff that's a rub. Whether it's money, whether it's disciplining kids, whatever it is, and then they forget why they got together. There was one of those reels or something, and we share those all the time.
Yes.
But there was a pastor that did an exercise, and he said he had this couple on stage, husband and wife, and then he didn't have the kids there yet. He said, stand next to each other. He said, okay, have the kids come in. And without any prompting, the kids went between them. And he said, you see what happened? He said, before the kids, they're together. He said, when the kids came, they're on other ends, and the kids are the most important thing. He said, okay, now they're off to college. Now what? Now you guys don't even know each other.
Wow.
Because you've been apart for so long. You didn't have that same commitment to love. And he said, let's adjust this a little bit. And then he put the couple together, and then he put the kids on one side. He said, you guys have to be together all the time, regardless of what's going on.
Nice. So, Kim, we talked about so many different things, and we talked about how we met.
Right.
And two things I was so impressed with, so many things. I've just thought of about 4 more things I thought of, so I can't quantify it right there. But when we first met, tell me about the magic tricks.
Yeah, man. So, hobby. So I got 2 hobbies, magic and poetry.
That's right.
So magic is, really think about what we talked about being other-centered rather than self-centered. When I do a magic trick, it's not for me. I know what's going on, but I know that someone else is going to be, oh, man, no way. I saw what you did. No, you didn't. But and so I've got like 10 card tricks, and I've got some other ones that I do. I've got the number thing. I just did it up. I just did it with the receptionist up here. And it's really to make someone smile and make them say, you know what? For this one brief moment in time, I was able to relax and chill. And it's fun. It's fun to do it. And I'm not overly good at it, but I'm good at those tricks that I know.
Right.
The poetry part is whenever you have an opportunity to speak in front of people, I think it's important that you aren't like everybody else, and that when you get in front of an audience, you capture them, like you're able to grab them with something right away instead of just going right to business, because most people will go right to the topic. And so if you think about, I thank people for their time, right? But thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. Speaking of time, right? And so, we all know Benjamin E. Mays. We're here in Atlanta with schools. He was a professor at Morehouse College. He taught Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
He actually wrote a poem about time. And he said, I only have a minute, 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, I did not choose it, but I know I must use it. Give account if I abuse it, suffer if I lose it. Only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. And so he's talking about the importance of every single second of every single day that you're on this planet. And I have so many other ones. And so the poetry part is, I'm not trying to make myself look smart. I don't write poetry, but I hear something, oh man, I got to remember that one. And it takes time to memorize these things.
It sure does.
And I've got some long ones, I've got some short ones. I've got one that I say every single morning.
Tell me
my
that
feet
movement mortgage.
Yes.
You came in, and in order for you to be operating at that capacity in the company we were at before then, your resume had to be just extraordinary.
Right.
And I remember you saying, how did you get so good at that? The mortgage industry, it's changed, of course, over the years, but you were at the top of your game with these companies, with training and different things like that, which is, unusual for us.
Yes.
That was an industry we just wasn't dominating, but you came in and you dominated. Tell me about that.
Well, for me, there's no doubt in my mind that we face so many challenges. I still face them. I've still experienced things, I'd say, within the last 8 months where I felt like I was being marginalized, right? But you learn to control it, because the biggest revenge is success.
Sure.
I remember Denzel Washington saying something. He got disrespected one time by somebody. He said, don't they know I could pull my wallet out, hit him in the head, and kill him? So that's not me, but
right.
But so I said, okay, I know who I am. I know where I come from. I will always, for the rest of my life, be that foster kid from New York City. And my goal is to always prove people wrong about kids like me. Just prove them wrong. Every time they say he's nothing, he's from nobody, he'll never be anything, I'm like, hold on a second. And so my commitment to myself is to always try to be the best that I can be. And that doesn't mean that I'm always going to be the top person. I'm talking about be the best version of myself. That means going to the gym at 6:30 in the morning and working out for an hour.
Even if you don't want to.
Even if I don't want to. And it means that I'm always going to read books, listen to them. It means that I'm always going to try to learn stuff that I don't know. It means that I'm always going to put myself in a vulnerable position when I don't know something. I just got off a call with somebody. I said, hey man, I've never had that happen before. I've never had anybody ask me that question. Can you run it by so-and-so, copy me on it, and we'll both learn. Now, most people probably wouldn't do that because they don't want to look vulnerable, but
Sure.
This is who I am.
Sure.
If I don't know something, I'm not going to say I know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other part of it for us, I think it's important that we are crossover artists. Think about Whitney Houston.
Yes.
You think about Mariah Carey.
Yes.
They sell records to everybody. Everybody loved them, right? And so if we are myopic, so narrow with our view that I'm only going to work here.
Great word.
And I can't work over there, you're limiting your potential. You're limiting the gifts that you can share with other people. And so when I use this, I look at myself as a bumblebee. So you think about the uniqueness of a bumblebee, just the uniqueness and the instinctiveness of a bumblebee. They got that big, fat body, and they've got those little bitty wings. For that, they should never be able to fly. but they're flapping those wings about 200 times per second to lift them up and get them off the ground and fly, because that bumblebee is not supposed to fly based on that. So some things we're not supposed to do if we listen to people saying that we can't do something. So, and I don't share this part often, but I got a GED. I took a couple classes in college when I was dating my wife because she wanted me to go with her. So, and one was an American Sign Language class, and one was something else. I'm like, I'll go with you, sure. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gone. So, and so to me, of course you should pursue an education. Of course you should go as far as you can go. But if you don't, so what? Don't beat yourself up. Find something that you can do with your gifts. If you want to be a mechanic and you want to work on cars, be the best mechanic that you can be. Hey, we got this class coming up about learning how to do this with the computer. I'm not interested. I'm like, I'll do it. Sign me up. Every opportunity I have to learn and grow, I want to do it. Every time I hear a speaker, first of all, I'm judging them. I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
Because you're an amazing speaker, right? So when you get in front of people, and then now you're in the audience and you hear a speaker and they're filling with their pockets and they're kind of like saying like 19 times in 1 minute, you're like, okay, I'm not even listening to you anymore. I'm listening to how many ums I'm trying to take. Okay. But so I always want to, and I'm never going to be I don't believe that I'm ever going to say I'm satisfied. And I just share with you that I've been a victims impact speaker for 39 years. And so you can do the math, and I've spoken in front of over 70,000 people. And I still learn things. I still say, okay, how can I do this better? How can I use an analogy to make my point with this audience? So know your audience, right? So you think about people that are in those meetings, a lot of them are addicted to drugs or alcohol. They can't control it. They can't. If you're an addict, you can't say, I'm going to stop, because they won't. They need help. It's rare that somebody can go cold turkey. So I'm like, how can I make a point about this? So you lead them up, right? Say, hey, how many people here know someone that's an alcoholic or a drug addict? People raise their hands. I say, okay. How many people know someone that's a recovering alcoholic or drug addict? Then I'll say, how many people know what the date May 6, 1954 is? I'd be shocked if they knew it, first of all. And crickets, right? Is that your birthday? No, man, that's not my birthday. I say, okay. I say, prior to May 6, 1954, worldwide, everybody knew that a human being could not run a sub 4-minute mile.
That's right.
Until May 6, 1954. In Oxford, England, this guy named Roger Bannister ran the first sub 4-minute mile ever.
Right.
And that's not even the story. Because the story is, since that date, over 4,000 people have run a sub 4-minute mile, including high school students. So now the question is, what's the difference? The difference beforehand, in their head, nobody can do it. Why even try? After that, that guy did it. I can do it. Every time they put their foot on the track, they said, I got a chance to break this 4-minute barrier. And so the same thing with drugs and alcohol. That guy did it.
Wow.
It's not just that, though. I could
analogy.
never drive a big rig. I could never operate a forklift. Yeah, you can. Just learn how to do it. I could never play a guitar. So just think about people that play guitars. And some of them phenomenal, right? But if you looked at them without a guitar, you'd be like, right. But when they put that guitar in their hand, all kinds of girls want them and everybody else. So for me, it always goes back to just try to be the best I can be. Try to treat everybody that you meet with dignity and respect. Every time I meet someone, I want them to have a positive impression of me. I'm from New York City. I know that's not going to happen. I just know it's not going to happen. And there are always going to be challenges. People are going to test you and all that stuff. But how do you respond? In the younger days, we could really think about getting physical with people and stuff like that. But as you mature in age, you can say, you have a nice day, and just walk off. Now, obviously, if someone is invading your space and doing things that you have to do something that's different.
Or threatening your family.
Threatening your family, that's something different. But the average in a bar, someone steps on your shoe or bumps into you and whatever it is, you can make better choices because
Wonderful.
You could. And so, and just life is not supposed to be that challenging.
Movement Mortgage.
Yes.
You were so just enthralled by Movement Mortgage. Right. You told me about it. You were like, hey, I love how I say, hey, brother man. I just think that is the coolest. I see. Hey, I got this place. It's this great company. I think you'd be great at it. And this great company, Movement Mortgage, you know, they had so many millions of, not millions. They had so many charter schools throughout the United States, and I think up in the Carolina area, the Charlotte, North Carolina area, they had taken schools and that were drug infested and different things like that, leveled it and spent like $20 million and built a school in the same place that was drug infested and different things like that. And then the kids would come in. I mean, I love the concept behind what they were doing. What a blessing it was to work there. Tell me a little bit about your role at Movement Mortgage, because you got a promotion.
Yes.
You got a promotion, and a well-deserved promotion too. But tell me about Movement Mortgage.
So this is an easy conversation for me, man.
Sure.
Because if you think about financial services, you think about these for-profit companies. They're interested in the bottom line. They're interested in making profits. They're interested in margins. They're interested, if they're not making the margins they want, even though they're making money, they're going to lower their head count, regardless of the circumstances. And so Movement Mortgage is a different company. We're in the mortgage industry. We're a retail lender. We're in all 50 states. We got about 4,500, 5,000 employees. And there's two types of employees at Movement. They are the loan officers, the people that are customer facing, and they take care of them and they get them in the financing for their homes and purchases and stuff like that. And then there's everybody else. And everybody else knows they're everybody else. And their job is to support the loan officers. That's from the CEO or everybody. And everything from that company starts at the top. So the CEO, his name is Casey Crawford.
I met Casey.
Yes. So Casey Crawford is a former NFL player. He won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, tight end. Got traded to Carolina. I think he played another 3 years there. But he comes from a family of faith. He grew up in Washington, D.C. area. He was one of a very few white families in the community. Dad owned a hardware store. Hardware store had a warehouse. His dad said, when these guys get out of jail or prison, have them come over, I'll give them a job. Casey, growing up, worked in the warehouse with these guys that were, having a second chance. That's his upbringing. And so when you talk about someone that is, you hear about people like him, and you're like, nah, that's not real. That's real.
That's real.
I mean, he gets to the office before everybody else, parks way at the far end, even though he has a space, and he's the last one to leave. And just a really genuine, good dude, right? So when he started the company in 2008, at the height of the financial crisis, he said, how do I give away all our money? And you can't do that. You can't do that, right? He says, what can I do? And they said, well, form a foundation and you can give half away. And so they formed a Movement Foundation. So we donate 48% of our net profits to charity through our foundation.
That's the number I was looking for. Right.
So we're an impact lender. And to be an impact company of any type, you have to donate at least 10% of your net profits. So think about Bombas, you think about Ben & Jerry's, those companies donate 10%, they're an impact company. We donate 48%. And so we have a lot of different things that we do with that money. And think about it this way. We want quality people to come work for our company. I'm always looking for quality people. But my number one thing when they're quality people is, what do they think about other people? How they're going to treat other people? What do they think about the customer? Or you just think about yourself?
Right.
If you just think about yourself, keep it walking. And so what people don't hear a lot, they say, well, you guys give away all your money. How could you do that? No, it's net profits. If we're not making profits, we can't give away money.
Sure.
So it's net profits. And so one of the main initiatives is to build 100 movement schools over the next 10 years. So a movement school is a public charter school in underserved communities. So Stanford University did a study, and it revealed that if you're born into poverty, you have a 4% chance of ever getting out for the rest of your life. So we want to change those statistics. And so these schools, we identify the location, we build the schools, we staff the schools all the way from the principal down to the service workers. We have our CEO of the schools is KTT.
Yep, I met her.
She is phenomenal. She's in her late 30s.
Yep.
She owns Brooklyn Tea here in Atlanta. She lives here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so we have 5 of those schools in Charlotte. We have another one in Charleston. The next 2 are going to be here in Atlanta.
Right.
Camp Creek Parkway and then up in Athens.
Mm-hmm.
And so we give the kids uniforms, we give them technology, we give them 2 hot meals a day. We have an after-school program that runs till 6 p.m. We give them another meal. The only thing they have to do is show up with an appetite for learning. The only thing the parents have to do is allow them to show up with an appetite for learning. And then typically adjacent to the schools, we have movement centers. And people from the local community, they can rent out space at a nominal cost. And we have resume writing skills. We have all these things for the community. They can go there, get some vocational skills, and help the community become better as well. Now, there are challenges with these schools because if you think about it this way, every single school we have, we're testing out 400% higher than the surrounding schools. Competition. And so there's a challenge getting them approved and getting them up and running, but we're up for the challenge. We want to do that because we know we're going to make a difference.
Sure.
The other thing that we do is we do these vision trips, they're mission trips. And we go to these third world countries. Mm-hmm. We identify the locations. If they don't have a water source, we try to identify a water source for them because that's one of the most important things there. We build these community centers, we supply food, clothing. We stay there, we're embedded in the communities. And the cool thing about these things is the people that are going on them, they're employees and family members, but we intentionally humble ourselves when we go there. You'll see pictures of a 65-year-old lady that works in operations washing the feet of a 5-year-old girl in Nicaragua. And it's because we're trying to set an example for them, first of all, that we're not better than anybody here. We're with you, we got you, we're going to do the best we can. So we have a goal of building one of those centers within walking distance of every community. Now keep in mind, some of these communities, the walking distance is 3 days. So think about it. And so that, for me, that is a driving force of why I'm here.
Of course.
But that doesn't mean it's for everybody.
Right.
Because some people don't even care about that at all.
Right.
And so, and I get that. That's cool. But that's why I'm here. And because I know that there's and Jesus said this, he said, there's a greater good above personal comfort or position. Not my will, but thine be done. That's exactly what he said. And so that's why I think about it, is that there's a greater good above personal comfort or position. And that's Movement Mortgage, man. And we don't advertise on stadiums and all that stuff like that, but we're embedded in the communities. We want to make a difference. And most people are apprehensive about dealing with people in sales in general, right? You deal with it all the time because they think that we're trying to get over on them. Like there's something going on there. You have commission breath. No, I have your best interest at heart. You tell me what's going on. I'll marry that up with what we have. If it's not a match, I'll try to get you to somebody who can help you. But if it is a match, I'm going to take care of you.
Right. Your life, and it's like me knowing you, your life is that's why I'm so honored to know you, Kim, because your life could have gone right. I mean, there were so many. I mean, you left, and then you took it right, and then you made up for some adversity that you went through, the self-taught, the self-training, I mean, you do a number on your own mind.
Oh yeah.
You have to. Talk about that. The what is it? Checkup from the neck up,
Yes.
as they call it. You know, because you and I swap reels, and they're all inspirational, motivational stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about how that and how that fits in your life. That checkup from the neck up.
Well, this is the deal. If you hear something like we're talking right now, I'm listening to you, I'm hearing you speak. I'm like, first of all, I'm stealing that, right? So that's what life is. Is about having the appetite for learning. If you have the appetite for learning, then you're going to always be open to things. So for a 3.5-year period of time, I traveled for a living. So I was doing some consulting work. So I've been to 44 of the 50 states for work in 14 countries. Now, I can't change the way I look. So I've gone to places like Morganfield, Kentucky, and everywhere in between, and I have never, not one time, had an issue. Not one time. And that is because, first of all, if you're looking for trouble, you're going to find it.
Yep.
But if you're just going through your life, being pleasant, having manners, all the traditional stuff, you can do well. The challenge with a lot of people in certain communities is they don't have the exposure. And so you think about it this way, I say this way. Your perspective on life cannot grow unless your environment expands. So if you think about it, if I'm born here in Atlanta somewhere and I live near Grady Hospital or wherever it is, and I have never left that neighborhood, and the role models that I have are people that never left the neighborhood, and they're satisfied where they are, how can they get a perspective on what's going on in Alpharetta or Lithia Springs or in Birmingham, Alabama? They can't. They're going to get that information from TikTok or the news, and most of it is probably going to be misinformation. But if they get out of that little area, that 4 square blocks, and see that there's a bigger world out there, and everybody's not evil, and I can make my impact and leave my mark in this world, then they'll have an opportunity to do it. But you got to be open to it. I wish I could talk to everybody. I wish I could shake people sometimes, but you can't. Sometimes I just say, none of my business. So be a good witness. So I mean, because you'll end up having some challenges yourself. That and just I've met some of the best people in the world in the jail. And I'm talking to them, and I'm thinking to myself, why are you here? I'm here because I'm an alcoholic. I'm here because I'm a drug addict. I could not find money for the drugs, so I used to own 5 Domino's pizzas. I used to do this. I couldn't put the bottle down. So if people get past they're incarcerated, part of it, or they live in a certain area, part of it, and just say, how can I help them? Even if it doesn't work out, even if they don't want to hear it, I'll keep it moving if they don't want to hear it. But if I can help, I want to help. I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you did. and I want to end with that poem that I heard you say, and I've heard you say it about 3 different times, and I said that I was going to memorize it, but I want to hear it. Do you have time for that?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So you think about people going through challenges. They're just going through challenges, and they say they can't do something. And so there's this poem, and it's by an unknown author, so we don't even know who wrote it. The first time I heard this poem was at the Democratic National Convention here in Atlanta, Georgia in 1988, and Jesse Jackson said it. And he said, "We've mastered the air, conquered the sea, annihilated distance, and prolonged life. But we are not wise enough to live on this earth without war and without hate. I'm tired of sailing my little boat far inside the harbor bar. I want to go out where the big ships float, out on the deep where the great ones are. And if my frail craft proves too slight, the waves that sweep those billows o'er, I would rather go down in a stirring fight than drowse to death on the sheltered shore."
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the extraordinary Kim Harrington one of my best friends, beautiful friends, one of the most extraordinary men or people that I know. Again, one of Adonis' finest. I want to thank Kim for coming out here because I know he had to work today. Give me some just something on Movement Mortgage.
Yeah. So first of all, this is how we dress.
Yeah.
So we're a t-shirt and jeans company.
Some of the best t-shirts I've ever
God.
worn, dude. Isn't that it?
And so this t-shirt right here. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
We'll get it right here. So this t-shirt right here says to love and value people. Right? That's our culture.
Yes.
To love and value people.
Yeah.
And so Movement Mortgage, we are a top 10 lender.
Yep.
We're in all 50 states.
Yep.
We do all kinds of lending, whether you're looking for investment property, primary residence, second home, it doesn't matter, condo, townhouse. But the cool thing is that every time someone works with us, 48% of our net profits go to charity, go to our foundation. We put it right back in the community to be a good corporate partner. And want to get in touch with me, kim.harrington@movement.com.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to more episodes with Adonis Finance, but there's only one Kim Harrington. I'll see you soon.
Days so hard, they're at the top of their game. We're about to make sure you know our names. Adonis Finest, the podcast, oh so fly. We stay on our grind, aiming high like diamonds. We shine, inspiring the mass through motivation and elevation. Breaking down all classes, teaching region. We can show you never fall with a helping hand. We rise from the crawl, from the bottom to the top. Never be stopped. Say no to doubt, say no to fear. Pushing boundaries, making it clear.